The time is 10:17 a.m. We're on the record.
All right, thanks for being back on time, Mr. Lakewold. And I just want to say, remind you, you're still under oath. All the admonitions I gave to you at the beginning of the deposition are still apply. Okay.
Yes.
And did anything come up for you during the break? Did you review any documents or have any conversations with anyone besides your attorney?
No.
I guess I should say regarding the case.
Regarding the case, no.
And are there any changes to your deposition testimony you'd like to make right now?
Not right now. My attorney has asked me to research something that'll take more than a 10-minute break. So maybe at lunch, we may make an alteration, but my attorney and I will discuss that and advise if we will change or alter a response or an answer.
Understood. Without going into the substance of that, can you tell me what the subject matter is that you're going to be looking into?
History of commenting on or off.
Is that both before Mr. Van Gessen's arrival and after, or just one or the other?
Just before, prior to Mr. Van Gessen, whether there was a time that there was ever commenting turned off.
Got it. In looking into that, I will, if this does come back up, I'm going to ask, and so this may be part of your research or not, I don't know, it's really up to you, but I will be asking you, just as forewarning, about the reasoning for turning it off and for turning it back on, just the reasoning about those decisions, okay?
Certainly.
Thank you. So focusing in on the Van Gessen era, so whenever it was that he took over the social media administration, that's where we're going next, okay?
Yes.
You were under sheriff at that period of time. Do you recall the moment when he took over the social media account? Any discussions surrounding that subject matter?
I don't by any means recall a date. I do know that it was during a time that he was still on patrol and he was on light duty based on an on-the-job, I believe it was an on-the-job injury. I could be wrong. It could be on or off. Anyway, he had an injury that resulted in a short period of time that he was performing light duty work and in the office, and that's when he began developing the Facebook platform to that level.
So to your knowledge, what were the changes that he initiated to that program?
Started utilizing the platform more frequently than it had been used. I didn't have any personal discussions with him during that. I know that the sheriff had told me at some point during that time frame that our attorney had reviewed and developed the Facebook online policy, not a sheriff's office policy for what's posted, but a policy for lack of better terms, or rules, I guess. So forgive me if I'm not articulating it clearly, but it would be the rules that would be posted on Facebook for public engagement.
So it sounds like the frequency increased. There was a development of a written policy or rules regarding the account, which we will get into. separate from the frequency and the policy, were there any other changes that you recall occurring around the time Van Giesen took over the account?
No.
And you testified to a conversation that you recall occurring with the sheriff. I'll ask you a few more questions about that in a bit, but were there any, separate from that, were there any other conversations or meetings that you recall around this period of time regarding the Facebook account?
No.
Do you recall any discussion about public comments being open or not, or whether to do that during that period of time?
No.
So during this period of time when Mr. Van Giesen's on light duty, what else was on his plate in terms of job responsibilities?
Not all inclusive, but oftentimes, and I know he participated in taking phone reports. So a call for service that didn't require a in-person deputy response, for example, a cold theft or a civil dispute that somebody wanted just on the record, or something that could be handled over the phone. Those are responsibilities that I know he participated in and are oftentimes associated with that type of light duty.
How long after he took over the Facebook account was he promoted to lieutenant?
He went to, he was just promoted to lieutenant in, I believe it was November. He was on patrol at that time, but then a short time after that, he went into detectives as a detective.
So when you said November, when you're looking down just now, what are you looking at, by the way?
Oh, my brand new boots that are killing my feet. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, contemplating whether they should be untied to let my foot breathe, or if I should suffer through it. So when he started doing Facebook, he was on light duty for patrol. He went a short time after that to detectives. His promotion to lieutenant was just this recent past November, filling the vacancy of a retired lieutenant. So the vast majority of this time he was in detectives and a short time in patrol.
I see. So, and this past November being a few months ago of 2023.
Yes.
So what were his job responsibilities as a detective?
Investigate, or we're not limited to felonies, but typically detectives investigate felonies. They're prioritized based on typically crimes against people and some property crimes that require detective investigation. So I know he was the lead detective on a homicide, and he did everything from burglaries to in between that as a detective.
Do you know what amount of time that he was spending on average, let's say per week, prior to becoming the lieutenant, on the social media work?
I don't know.
Do you recall any conversations about that issue? Hey, I don't have enough time to do this. This is taking up a lot of time. Anything like that?
No.
Had there been a issue raised regarding him not having sufficient resources to do the work related to social media, would that have been a conversation you would have been party to?
If it wasn't immediately solved with his direct supervisor, and I was made aware of it, then potentially, but I was not made aware of any conversations about that.
So this is, I am asking you to speculate here, okay?
Yes.
If this did come up, what do you suspect the response would have been from the Bonner County Sheriff's Office regarding a request for, I need to have like a half position, half my time needs to be spent on social media? What would the office have done?
Object to the form. Calls for speculation, but you can answer.
Certainly. We would certainly have looked at that. I don't, certainly it's speculative only. However, I don't believe that amount of time would be allocated for Facebook because our greater responsibility is investigating crimes. So that volume of time probably would have been denied, and we would have either scaled back on Facebook or made adjustments necessary. It made sense at the time to have one person overall being involved with it, but again, speculatively only. I don't believe that amount of time, or even close to that amount of time, would have been fully allocated to Facebook alone.
So as you sit here today, what do you believe would be a reasonable amount of time per week to have the Facebook administrator working on managing the account?
Object to the form.
And again, I'm speculating. I'll answer based on speculation because I would have to do greater research on the value of either. But off the top of my head, 10% seems like a reasonable amount of time in one's work week to spend on our social media platform.
I'm fairly certain you've already answered this, but I just want to confirm. You don't know though today how much time it was per week Van Giesen was spending on this particular aspect of his work. Is that correct?
Correct. I do not know.
And he was the only staff member who was doing so, to your knowledge, during his tenure?
Primarily, to my knowledge, yes. However, the possibility certainly exists that somebody else had made a posting that had access at the direction of well, I think I recall perhaps Cheryl Kins maybe making a post, or somebody directing Jackie Roberts, but I don't recall the timelines. And so when I say that, again, I'm only guessing, but I don't want to be hard and fast that nobody else posted anything during that timeline.
Understood. Thank you. And for the record, Mika Rothman for the plaintiff has made an appearance. Regarding the resources available to the administration of the Bonner County Sheriff Facebook page during Van Giesen's era, were there any trainings that were made available to him or were required of him with respect to social media?
No.
To your knowledge, did he attend any on his own?
I don't know.
During Van Giesen's era of administering the page, how did the Bonner County Sheriff's Office maintain continuity of command? Maybe that's the wrong word, but maintain control over the BCSO social media page?
Check to the form.
Can you clarify that? I mean, can you clarify that just a little bit? I'm not positive I understand that fully.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm wondering how the Bonner County Sheriff's Office maintained control over what Van Giesen was doing with respect to the page?
Same objection.
If I understand the question correctly, he would either develop a post based on something provided, say from a Marine lieutenant that needed something put out for a grant or something the sheriff or I had asked him to develop a post for, and then it was approved by, I believe, either the sheriff or I prior to being posted.
So I understand you to be addressing the content generation process, that Van Giesen would generate a post and then it would get approved by yourself or the sheriff. Is that right?
Yes.
A little bit more broadly than just content generation, but including like management of the responses and the comments. How did the Bonner County Sheriff's Office maintain control over what Van Giesen was doing? And I'll just be specific. Did you guys have weekly or some sort of regular meeting or phone call, or was there a memo, or how was the feedback loop? As opposed, was it ad hoc or was it systematic? How did you guys in the upper echelon of the sheriff's office maintain awareness of what was happening on the page?
Incidental, case by case.
Can you describe what, if anything, happened or changed regarding the public engagement with the page following Van Giesen's administration of it?
Check to the form. Answer if you can.
Trying to understand the question. I'm sorry, sir. Can you repeat the question?
I'll rephrase it. Did the public's engagement with the page increase after Van Giesen began increasing the frequency of postings?
I don't know.
So you don't have any awareness of whether what Van Giesen was doing had an effect on how the page was being interacted with the community?
Van Giesen, on semi-frequent intervals, I don't know if that was monthly or every couple months, I can't recall, would provide a rundown of public engagement based on our history. However, I have nothing to compare that to from prior to, so I don't know if that is increased or decreased or remain neutral. There was no exploration of that prior to his implementation of looking into that.
Within the period of time where he was providing those updates regarding public engagement, which may have been on a monthly basis, it may have been a different rate. But within that period of time where he was providing those updates, did the public engagement increase?
Check to the form.
I think so.
How did he provide those updates? Were they written, verbal? What was the basis, or how did he share that with you?
Email.
Okay, I'm going to make another request right now. Would you, during a break, please see if you can dig up those emails? Would that be in your email, you believe?
I don't know if I can find them all. I'm certain I can find at least some examples. And so I have a notepad beside me. Do you mind if I just make a note of that along with, because I haven't answered the request to look up the potential ghost account. So if you don't mind, I'm going to make a note of both of those for our lunch break.
Please do. Thank you. Let me know when you're ready.
Um, Two pens didn't work. Okay, I'm good.
In addition to the emails that you just mentioned, were there, and the ad hoc, as things came up, conversations you'd have regarding the page, were there any other methods by which you and Sheriff Wheeler were made aware of what was going on with the account? Were there meetings? Would this come up during regular meetings?
There were no regular meetings.
Form.
No regular meetings, okay. Well, I can't imagine you guys didn't meet regularly about other things. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. So you did meet about other things. It's just this wasn't always part of the agenda. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. To your knowledge, does the Idaho Public Records Act apply to content posted by the Bonner County Sheriff's Office to the Bonner County Sheriff's Facebook page?
Jack to the form, calls for a legal conclusion.
My,
Understanding you're not an attorney, and I'm not asking you to bind, but is that your understanding? Yeah, what is your understanding about that?
my understanding on public requests for information, we provide anything that we have in written form that we don't have to generate. So, for example, if we had a written form of a post that was exchanged via email, then, and there was nothing in there that needed redacting or that was excluded based on ongoing criminal cases, some of the exclusion, then yes, we would release that.
So, same caveat regarding, I know that council will object on the same basis, and it's a fair objection regarding a legal conclusion, but nevertheless asking for your personal understanding. Would the Idaho Public Records Act apply to, similarly to the comments posted by the public in response to those posts, to reactions to those posts or comments?
Jack to the form, calls for legal conclusion.
So again, based on my understanding, if it's something that we have in writing, in other words, somebody could pull up the Facebook page and print off what exists in writing, then yes, we would provide that.
Would, by the same token, would deleting content that was available to the Bonner County Sheriff's Office constitute a violation of the Public Records Act? Acknowledging that would call for a legal conclusion?
Same objection.
Yeah, definitely that would call for a legal conclusion. And my understanding is if it doesn't exist, we can't provide it. So if it's no longer there, we can't provide it. The legal ability or authority to do so, I think, is a whole different topic.
Well, I guess that's my next question, more generically about this subject matter. Like, if you have something written in the office that would be subject to disclosure because you possess it, would destroying that document potentially violate the Public Records Act? Would that be contrary at least to Bonner County Sheriff's Office training and policy?
Object to the form, calls for legal conclusion, also compound.
So, if I may, there's a lot of variables that go into that. So we have the legal right, authority, and almost expectation that some documents are going to be destroyed over time. And for example, recording policies. Now, I don't know what the offhand what the timelines are for retention of body cam recordings that exists, etc. But there's a timeline when just because it's in existence doesn't mean that it has to be retained forever. And so while it's in existence, it's subject, my understanding is it's subject to discovery on a request for freedom of information, FOIA, I'll use for lack of better terms. If it's past the retention timeline and we still have it, yes, then we produce it. If it's past the retention timeline and we've deleted, removed, destroyed, etc., then certainly we don't have it any longer. And so again, that's kind of in my opinion, a twofold question. I don't know where Facebook commenting or not commenting falls into any legal retention timeline, and so I'll answer that separately. I don't know what the timeline retention policy is or isn't from a legal standpoint on Facebook.
So we're getting into some policy questions, and I appreciate that some of these questions have been a little bit outside the center of the bullseye with respect to this particular case. So I'm going to try and get a little more focused. So you've discussed a policy earlier, a set of rules, and I want to ask specifically about that policy. We're going to go into it specifically here in a moment. And the term that shows up on the document, at least, is the terms of use. And it was a public facing aspect of the Facebook page that provided sort of rules regarding the public's use of the page. So before we get into that, is there any other written policies that you're aware of regarding social media use, or I'm sorry, administration of the page by Bonner County Sheriff's Office employees?
No.
Because I'd already asked that question with respect to prior to Van Giesen. I guess now I'm specifically focusing in on the Van Giesen era. And that's still, the answer is still no?
Correct. No.
Why not?
I don't know.
Would that be a place, that type of written policy regarding the administration of the page, be a place where the Bonner County Sheriff's Office could articulate and address the application of retention of public records as it applied to content on the page, and whether it would be appropriate to delete or remove such content?
Next to the form.
Yes.
So I did ask you earlier regarding whether there was any trainings regarding administration of this Bonner County social media page prior to Van Giesen. And now I'm asking you with respect to during the Van Giesen era, were there any trainings that were required?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
Is there any way the Bonner County Sheriff's Office would know if somebody who had access to the page had gone in and deleted something without permission or authority?
I don't know.
a policy regarding Bonner County Sheriff's Office employees' administration of the page would be also a place where the office could articulate its obligations under the First Amendment. Is that correct?
Check to the form, calls for speculation.
Yes.
Regarding the First Amendment, and again, these are all going to be objections regarding calls for legal conclusion. But so I'm asking your lay opinion and understanding as a law enforcement officer regarding the First Amendment. To your knowledge, is it legitimate to criticize law enforcement under the First Amendment?
Mr. Pence, do you want me to just put a standing objection as to calls for legal conclusion so I don't have to say it every time?
That's perfectly fine. I'm only going to ask about 3 questions here, but I do appreciate the offer. So, and I would accept that standing objection.
Okay. So that objection is on the record. Thank you.
Understood. Do you still recall the question?
No, can you please
Yeah.
say it again?
Happy to. On your lay law enforcement officer opinion and understanding regarding the First Amendment, is it legitimate to criticize law enforcement under freedom of expression?
Legal, I believe so, yes. Legitimate, I don't know if I understand the basis for that, but absolutely it's legal under the First Amendment, in my opinion, and my understanding, to criticize law enforcement or anything for that matter.
And with the same qualifications and with the same understanding as to the objection, is it legal for law enforcement to censor criticism of such criticism?
I'm gonna add another objection to that. Calling for speculation. That's awful broad.
I don't know exactly how to answer that. It's so broad. I mean, certainly. I'm sorry. Can you ask the question one more time?
Yes. Are we getting some feedback?
I'm hearing a little bit on my end.
Yeah, just for a second.
Okay, it appears to be off now. Okay, so I'll rephrase. You just testified that it's absolutely lawful in a general, generic, principled sense to criticize law enforcement under the First Amendment, correct?
Yes.
So in that same general, principled sense, would it be unlawful for law enforcement to punish or censor that exact same totally lawful criticism?
In a broad sense, no.
Oh, tell me more about that.
I'm not sure I understand the question. You're again, it's asking for some speculation there. In the truest sense of criticism, and under the First Amendment, certainly people have the right to, in my understanding and opinion, to challenge or disagree with or criticize or agree or anything else for that matter. I don't know that I agree under all platforms, and so, but that's based on legal understanding and speculation and every other sense. And so from a broad spectrum, I would say that people have that First Amendment privilege. Narrowing it down, I don't know that that always applies. For example, bomb on an airplane. I'll use that as the catchphrase one. That incites behavior. I know that that's a apples to oranges comparison, but so it's I think there is at times and places when that's not acceptable. But again, that's based on my understanding with no legal opinion supporting that.
Okay, it sounds like it would be helpful to take this out of total generalities, maybe make this more specific. So if we were to, instead of using the bomb on an airplane, which is neither criticism of law enforcement nor is it protected speech, you can't do that.
Right.
Or fire in a theater is the other very common example or hypothetical. So if instead we had a situation where somebody walked into or was out on the sidewalk in front of the Bonner County Sheriff Office's building and was holding a sign saying bad cops, is that a lawful exercise of free speech insofar as it's criticizing law enforcement, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, go ahead, Heather, I'm sorry.
I just said object to the form.
Yes, to my knowledge, that would be acceptable freedom of speech.
Okay, and so
To
taking that exact same
protected.
scenario.
I'm sorry, sir, I talked over you. Me rephrasing, that's protected First Amendment privilege, yes.
Okay, taking that exact same scenario, would it be lawful for a Bonner County Sheriff's Office employee to walk outside and do something to retaliate against that individual, or to say you can't be here, or you need to take that sign down, or something like that? Censorship or punishment with respect to that example that we've just agreed upon as protected speech?
No,
That would be lawful for the officer to do that?
no.
Oh, it would not be lawful. Okay. So would you agree with me that it would be unlawful for the Bonner County Sheriff's Office to block a member of the public from the BCSO Facebook page as a consequence of that person criticizing the Bonner County Sheriff's Office?
Object to the form.
I don't know.
Can you tell me more about what is causing you to say you don't know? Is there more information you need, or what is it that is difficult about that?
Well, in part, that's what we're all here for. So to find out if at the end of the day, if that's lawful. So let me put, if I may, to track where my head goes, if you're in an unlawful, so on the sidewalk, for example, in front of the Bonner County Sheriff's Office, you're free to protest, exercise your First Amendment privilege, all the above, as long as you're not impeding traffic, or there might be some other exclusions, but we'll just say that's an absolute protected place. If they come into the lobby and disrupt lobby traffic, for example, people trying to do their business either internally or externally in our lobby, I think that's a place that can be, we'll say, I can't think of the term, but dealt with, to remove that disruption. So on our Facebook, for example, and what my I don't know is that I don't know if that's a place that similar to a property right of disruption, for lack of better terms. And again, I'm not speaking from a legal standpoint. I'm just answering from my purely speculative questioning standpoint that might be a place based on our policy, not policy, terms of use. I'm sorry, because that is the term that we should place that in the terms of use for our Facebook. If it's a violation of our terms of use, is that in a place that we can remove the disruption for the ongoing program, especially when it does not have any relevance to the subject matter that was posted. So my question, I guess, remains, or my answer, I'm sorry, remains, I don't know.
Okay, let's take one step further down this hypothetical we're dealing with about the sidewalk, the lobby, okay? So if the Bonner County Sheriff's Office is allowing members of the public to come into the lobby, and people are coming into the lobby, and some people are holding up signs saying good cop, and some people are holding up signs saying bad cop, and the Bonner County Sheriff's Office were to say all the people with bad cop signs out, would that be lawful as far as you understand under the First Amendment?
Object to the form.
No, in itself, that example would not be lawful to exclude by choice of their position. I don't believe that would be a lawful exclusion.
And one more step down this road we're talking about, if the Bonner County Sheriff's Office allowed individuals to come in and hold signs in the lobby, and the subject matter of the day, let's say it's the law enforcement memorial, like there's a day that we're celebrating the law enforcement memorial. And some people are coming in to the lobby to say, law enforcement memorial is great. They're holding up signs. We like law enforcement memorial. And some people came into the lobby and said, we don't like the law enforcement memorial. Would it be appropriate or lawful rather for the Bonner County Sheriff's Office to say people with signs that are against law enforcement memorial have to get out?
Same objection.
No, I don't believe that would be lawful.
We've talked about the policies as the Bonner County Sheriff's Office has it with respect to the law, to social media in general. But I want to ask specifically about access to Bonner County Sheriff properties generally. So, for example, the lobby. Is there any sort of policy that dictates under these circumstances a person could be banned permanently from coming on to the Bonner County Sheriff's Office property?
Object to the form.
That's very broad. If somebody is a disruption, they can be removed permanently. That's a pretty broad spectrum because sheriffs come and go. So I'm going to say that I don't know that there would be any such thing as a permanent exclusion. And I do know that because it is. So yeah, I'll stick with that. The possibility exists that yes, they could be removed for being a disruption. And when I say disruption, that's not based on their position. That's based on their action and disrupting normal business practice. They could be removed, and I don't believe it would be permanent.
Yeah, let me be clear. I think there's probably a lot of different ways the Bonner County Sheriff's Office could go about doing such a removal, including and up to just trespassing somebody and saying, you can't come onto my property, like any property owner.
Yes.
I guess I'm asking specifically about a written policy regarding how that would have come about, or the conditions under which a person, the criteria a person would have to meet in terms of repeatedly offending or being warned or having some appeal or anything like that. Is there any, and it is a broad question because I don't know the answer. Is there any sort of written policy that governs how that kind of exclusion could come about?
Object to
My
the form.
apologies. I'm sorry, go ahead, Heather.
I just said object to the form.
My apologies. You did ask that portion at the first part of your question, and I actually missed that. No, there is no policy that I'm aware of that exists for that.
Why not?
I don't know.
Is it fair to say that this doesn't come up very often in terms of the Bonner County Sheriff's Office doing something like that?
Yes, that's fair.
Form.
I'm sorry, Heather. I'll try to give you more time for your objections.
Did the court reporter catch that objection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm afraid we may have already covered this, but I want to just make sure. The daily operation of the Bonner County Sheriff's Office Facebook page during the Van Gissen era, I just want to, maybe I'll just explain to you my understanding of it. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. Does that sound like a way we could more quickly move through this?
Yes.
Okay, so my understanding is that Mr. Van Gissen would have some sort of content generation on his own or through people, ideas that came up through other officers. He would generate a post and you and or the sheriff would approve that post and then he would post it. Is that approximately the process?
Yes.
Object to the form.
Sorry. Yes.
Approximately how often would he do that? Would he would make those posts during the period of time he was in charge of the account?
Purely a guess, just based on my memory. Roughly once a week, maybe once every other week on an average. But sometimes there would be 2 or 3 in a week, and sometimes there wouldn't be anything for maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Thank you. And I want to just ask a quick, meta question here. You've used the term guess a couple of times. I just want to be clear. I'm not really asking for a guess. I'm more asking, I'm more comfortable with the term estimate, because a guess could be like, I'm putting my hand into a bucket and pulling out like whatever I find. Whereas an estimate would be, this isn't precise, but this is based on the information I have and what I can recall about this situation. When you've used the term guess, have you been really making an estimate?
Object to the form.
Yes, that's a fair assessment of my terminology, and I will try to adjust that because that's a more accurate answer.
Okay, and I'll do my best also to bring that up if it comes up again, okay? So separate from the posting itself, who authorized, well, and let me ask you a different question. To your knowledge, were comments by the public ever hidden from the Bonner County Sheriff's Facebook page?
Object to the form.
Comments in general, hidden?
Yeah, public
Um,
comments hidden. Using the definitions we developed at the beginning of this deposition.
Not to my knowledge, no.
So to your knowledge, comments by like Mr. Leighty, I just want to clarify, I think maybe we're not on the same page. Mr. Leighty's comments, to your knowledge, were never hidden from the Bonner County Sheriff's Facebook page?
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought you said prior to Van Giesen. I don't know that they ever were prior to Van Giesen.
I see. Okay. But during Van Giesen's era, you are aware that there were some comments, public comments hidden on the Facebook page.
Yes.
All right. Who had the authority to authorize such hiding?
I believe that myself would have that authority. The sheriff would have that authority. And Independently, I don't believe anybody besides the two of us would have that independent authority to make that request.
So the hiding that you're aware of that occurred during Van Giesen's tenure would have occurred with your authority or that of Sheriff Wheeler.
Yes.
And similarly, just kind of developing the background here, you are aware of at least one individual being blocked during the Van Giesen administration of the Facebook page.
Yes.
And who would have authority to block?
Same answer would be the sheriff, Sheriff Daryl Wheeler, or myself.
And the individual blocked that, well, the blocking you're aware of would have occurred with either your authority or that of Sheriff Wheeler?
Yes.
So with respect to authorized hiding and blocking on the Bonner County Sheriff's Facebook page, how did that occur? Was there a conversation that would come up? Would it be written? What can you tell me about the authorization process for hiding and blocking?
Object to the form.
I believe it was either, I wasn't, I didn't request either to be done. And so I'm estimating that that would be via text or email or personal conversation.
Okay, so I want to unpack that because there's two parts of your answer that I want to confirm. One is that you never authorized hiding or blocking. Is that correct?
I never requested. I don't believe that I authorized, but I may have authorized based on a request. But I want to leave room that I don't recall authorizing, and I did not request.
And that's with respect to both hiding and blocking.
Correct.
And to your knowledge, the way that authorization would occur, whether it was requested by someone else or initiated by you, would have occurred through a text, email, or personal conversation?
Yes.
Who made requests to hide that you're aware of?
I believe it was the sheriff, Sheriff Daryl Wheeler. I'm sorry.
Anyone else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Who made requests to block?
My understanding would be Sheriff Daryl Wheeler.
Anyone else?
Not that I'm aware.
Now, the subtext of all this is we're here on the case of Leighty versus Bonner County Sheriff's Office and Daryl Wheeler. So we're talking largely about Leighty, but I want to just expand that slightly. Are you aware of any requests or authorized hiding of comments by anyone other than Mr. Leighty?
Object to the form.
Not that I recall, no.
Are you aware of, and let me back up, that same question regarding hiding beyond Leighty, that question is at any time, so prior to Van Giesen or during Van Giesen? Same answer?
Same answer, yes.
Now, with respect to blocking, are you aware of any Facebook users besides Mr. Leighty being blocked before Van Giesen or during Van Giesen?
Yes.
Okay, were you aware of those folks being blocked when they were blocked?
No,
Okay, you became aware of other users having been blocked during the course of this litigation.
yes, correct.
So is it fair to say you don't know why the other folks were blocked?
I don't know.
Is it fair to say you don't know whether or not those individuals being blocked was an authorized action by, clearly not by you, but you don't know whether it was authorized by Sheriff Wheeler?
Correct.
We dealt with the folks who had access to the page and to make some of these take some of these actions regarding hiding and blocking prior to Van Giesen. So, and I'm curious about the individuals who had access and authority, not an authority, but access to take those actions during Van Giesen's tenure. Can you tell me who those individuals were?
I'm sorry, yeah, can you please repeat the question?
Thank you. It's not, I give too much of a preamble before I just ask the question. So during Van Giesen's tenure, who else besides Van Giesen had access to the Facebook page that would allow them to take actions, including hiding, blocking, and posting?
The ability to take those actions exists with the access to log on, which would then, I would refer to the names I gave you. And again, I'm going by memory, but Colleen Reinick, myself, Tim Hemphill, or Captain Tim Hemphill, Trace Drumright, Jackie Rogers, Cheryl Messer, and I apologize if there's anyone I missed. Based on their logon, that independently gives the ability to do it, the authority to do it. It exists with, again, with the sheriff or I.
I understand your testimony to be that you never asked anyone to hide comments and never asked anyone to block users. Regarding understanding that, did you personally approve of the hiding of comments that you were aware of at the time?
Check to the form.
My memory may be jogged at some point during this. I literally, I don't independently remember approving that, but I'm not, but I'd like to leave that open to, I may have, but I don't recall.
Yeah, and I guess I want to make sure I am clear about what I mean when I say approve. I don't mean approve like authorize, like you're giving your seal of approval or you're saying the undersheriff says do this, but rather that you approve of it in a that you agreed, that you thought that that was correct action to take. So with respect to that definition of approve, do you recall having agreeing that the hiding of comments that you're aware of at the time, that you agreed at the time?
Same objection.
Yes.
Yes, you recall, and yes, you approved?
Yes, I agree with at the time.
You agreed at the time.
Yes.
And do you recall that by the same definition, or agree rather, did you agree regarding the blocking, especially Mr. Leighty?
Yes, I agreed at the time.
Did you authorize the comments that were generated by Mr. Van Giesen as those were being posted?
Check to the form. You said comments, did you mean to say Van Giesen was posting comments?
Sorry, posts, yes.
Posts, yes, I agreed with.
I'm sorry, now I'm asking, I'm jumping around. So now I'm asking about the authorizing. So I understand you did authorize Van Giesen to do posts approximately once a week, maybe up to sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes once every other week. When you were being asked for authority to post, were you asked to give authority to post?
Yes,
And when you did so, would you review the post first? Would you just kind of be like, yeah, do whatever, or did you actually look at it before you gave authority?
the vast majority of them that I was involved with, I would read them for content and typo errors. I know that there was like incidental driver's license closures that is a one-liner, and I don't recall paying much attention to those, just agreeing to post them. But anything with content, yes, I would review and agree to or suggest corrections.
Regarding the review of public comments in response to such posts, when, like, for example, on posts where Sheriff Wheeler is requesting a comment to be hidden, would Sheriff Wheeler, did it matter in terms of who approved the underlying post for who would be in a position to say this should be hidden, this comment should be hidden?
Object to the form. If you understand the question, you can answer it.
I think I understand the question to be if I, for example, approved the report or approved the post, could Sheriff Wheeler request a hidden comment or comment hidden? Yes, that I agree that was possible or perhaps happened. I don't know.
Okay, so you have independent authority to hide even if you weren't involved in approving the original post.
Certainly, yes.
And regarding review of comments, do you know how that worked? Do you know how Van Giesen would review the comments, or how comments that were potentially violations of the terms of use would come to his attention?
Object to the form.
I do not know.
So it might have been systematic. He's looking at every single one. It might have been totally random. You just don't know.
Correct. I don't know.
This is probably a good spot to take a break, is from my perspective. Does that sound okay to you, Miss Yakeley?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's go off the record.
Okay, the time is 11:21 a.m. We're off the record.
Hey, Brady, before
I would